Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be ranking my top 5 potential fallers in the 2019 NHL Draft. Now there are always surprises in the draft, and in the 2019 NHL Draft, which 5 prospects do I see falling the most? Watch till the end to find out. Now, every single year in the draft, we see prospects that have a lot of hype on them end up falling in the draft. Prospects that nobody really expects to fall as much as they do falling in the draft. Last year, we saw Joe Veleno dropping all the way down to 30th overall. While there might not be a prospect that goes to that extent, there will be some prospects, especially in this video, that do end up falling. Now, jumping into the top 5, for the first prospect who I think will be falling in this NHL draft, I have Peyton Krebs. He's a center/left winger at age 18, 5'11", 181 pounds. He's recently ranked 10th by Bob McKenzie in his final rankings. I personally have him 8th in my final rankings. When it comes to Peyton Krebs, due to some bad circumstances, and not really because of him, he's probably going to end up falling in this draft, potentially out of the top 10. Now, he'll likely end up falling in this draft, not because of his stats, because those are amazing. In the 2018-2019 season with the Kootenay Ice, he ended up playing 64 games, getting 19 goals, 49 assists for 68 points. In the U18 World Juniors, the captain of Canada, he ended up playing 7 games, getting 6 goals, 4 assists for 10 points. Those stats are solid, and again, those WHL stats with a very bad ice team, those are some solid points to put up. It's not because of the points that he's dropping, it's because of the off-ice stuff. I say off-ice stuff. It's not like he had an attitude or it was some controversy that he did something wrong. He really didn't do anything wrong. It was mostly because of unfortunate circumstances. After the draft combine, it was revealed that he needed to get surgery on his Achilles tendon, which was big news and still is. When it comes to Peyton Krebs, that might be a big factor in some teams' decision making. I don't think it should be. Again, he'll likely be back after training camp, so it won't affect his long-term development for most teams, but I think that will be a factor for some NHL teams in that top 10 due to health reasons he might end up falling. When it comes to Peyton Krebs, I still see him as a top 8 prospect. He's proved that to me, skill-wise and all around, that he can be that type of prospect and be that type of player in the NHL. But I think there are some teams that, again, are concerned about that injury. That, yes, an Achilles tendon, it's not a minor injury by any means. It is pretty serious business. I think he will return for that. I think he'll be fantastic after he heals up. But I think some teams are factoring that into their decision-making. Again, in that top 10, I think some teams will kind of factor that in, and if it does go outside of the top 10 in this draft, I wouldn't exactly be surprised. Now, going on to number 4, my second potential faller in the 2019 NHL Draft, I have Wylie Cozens. Now, he is a right winger at age 17, 6'1", 190 pounds. He was recently ranked 8th by Bob McKenzie. I personally have him 14th in my draft rankings. But when it comes to Wylie Cozens, he's, again, kind of a random prospect in this draft. A lot of people had him as their number 3 prospect for a lot of the year. He ended up dropping quite a bit after the U18s, and now his spot in the draft is kind of unknown. And it's really hard to pinpoint where Wylie Cozens will definitely go in this draft, because I've seen people maybe saying that Chicago might pick him at 3rd overall, which I still think is unlikely, but could potentially happen, and some people have him outside of the top 15, potentially going to teams like Colorado, Vegas, or Dallas. I personally see the Colorado Avalanche picking him up at number 16. I see that as a logical place for Wylie Cozens. Again, I have him ranked as my 14th best prospect in the draft, but again, he's really all over the place. I could see him going outside the top 15 or being a top 5 pick. Again, right now with Wylie Cozens, it's basically a coin flip. And he's controversial for a lot of different reasons. Again, the high-end skill is obviously there. We can see the potential in Wylie Cozens, but I think a lot of teams are worrying that he might not hit that level, that potential that we see in him in the MHL and VHL and the World Juniors. When it came to his World Junior stats, especially in the U18s, they were a little bit disappointing. And when it came to Wylie Cozens, again, you really didn't see too much of him in the MHL, the VHL. His regular season was basically spread out to a bunch of different leagues, and not a lot of people got to see a too big sample size of him, and that's a big reason why I think he may drop a lot in this draft. Again, the uncertainty with Wylie Cozens, I think, is a big factor, and the uncertainty, I think, can actually reach his full-time potential, which is obviously still there. Heading on to number 3, my third potential faller in the 2019 NHL Draft, I have Pavel Dorofeyev. He's a winger at age 18, 6 foot, 163 pounds. He was ranked 82nd by Bob McKenzie in his final draft rankings. I personally have him at number 18 in my final draft rankings, so you can see the separation when it comes to Pavel Dorofeyev. Now, he isn't a top prospect like a guy like potentially Peyton Krebs or potentially Wylie Cozens, but he's a very solid player who I think should go in the first round in every single person's mock draft. But the thing is, he could go anywhere, and I mean anywhere, in this NHL draft. When it came to Pavel Dorofeev's KHL stats, he ended up playing 23 games, getting 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points, but got some solid ice time as well, got some decent responsibility. In the MHL, he tore that league apart, playing 19 games, getting 17 goals, 14 assists for 31 points. And again, with Pavel Dorofeev, I'm a big fan of what he brings skill-wise. I'm a big fan of what the potential is with him as well. And he showed stats, and good stats, unlike a guy like Vasily Podkolzin. Now, I still have Podkolzin ranked ahead of Pavel Dorofeev, but I don't think it's this big gap whatsoever. But Bob McKenzie having him at 82nd in his final draft rankings, and again, those are consensus rankings, not where he thinks those guys should go, is kind of concerning for where Pavel Dorofeev might be at the end of the NHL draft. If you get him in the 2nd or 3rd round, that is an absolute steal. And before Bob McKenzie's final draft rankings, I thought he would have been a slam dunk top 40 pick. Not in my personal rankings, but in the NHL draft selection. I thought he would have gone that high for sure, but him being 82nd by Bob McKenzie, again, on a consensus rating, is very, very interesting, because if he's a 3rd round prospect now, if you would have said that to me a month ago, I would have thought you were crazy if that actually does end up happening, but now I could see that being realistic and actually happening on draft day. Going on to number 2, my 4th potential faller in the 2019 NHL draft, I have Dylan Cozens. He's at age 18 right now. He is a center, 6'3", 181 pounds. He was recently ranked 6th by Bob McKenzie in his final draft consensus rankings. I personally had him at the same mark, having him as the 6th best prospect in the 2019 NHL draft. When it comes to Dylan Cozens, I wouldn't have said that he would be a faller in this draft a couple of weeks ago, but it seems like his draft stock has dropped hard and very hard compared to what it used to be. In the WHL, he ended up playing 68 games of Lethbridge, getting 34 goals, 50 assists for 84 points. In the playoffs, he ended up getting 7 games played, getting 4 goals, 4 assists for 8 points. And when it comes to Dylan Cozens, again, I would have thought he would be a top 5 pick in this draft a lot of times, 9 times out of 10 even. But it seems like his draft stock has fell quite a bit. After a meh U18s tournament with Team Canada, that didn't really help his draft stock whatsoever, and in the draft combine, he really didn't impress teams too much. And that is a big factor for a lot of different NHL teams here. Again, those U18s were meh, the combine was meh at best, and that factors a lot into the final team's decision. There's also some concerns that he might not be a center at the next NHL level, and that's a big factor when it comes to Dylan Cozens. One of the main promises is that he would be as next center, a second-line center, or a first-line center for the future for any teams that draft him. But there's been some concerns that he might have to be switched to the left wing or whatever wing he wants to play at that point, and that's going to heavily affect his draft stock. If he goes to the wing, if he projects as a winger, I can see him definitely going outside of the top 10. That's how big of a factor centers are in this draft, and that's how good of a hot commodity they are right now. Now, in my opinion, whether he's a winger or a center, I still think he's a great forward prospect and will be in this NHL draft. I still think he should go top 6. But the thing with Dylan Cozens is that when it comes to NHL teams, it's pretty much the opposite. His draft stock is lowering quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting available to teams like Florida, teams like Minnesota, teams like Philadelphia at that point, and that's very interesting. Now, I really don't think he'll go past Anaheim with the 9th overall pick, but anything could happen in this draft. Again, Dylan Cozens could be one of those guys that ends up falling. We always see a prospect that should go top 10 end up falling crazily, and Dylan Cozens might be that. Now, going on to my number 1 pick, the prospect who I think might drop the most in this NHL draft, I have Arthur Kaliyev. He is a left winger at age 17, 6'2", 190 pounds. He was recently ranked 21st by Bob McKenzie. I personally have him as the 11th best prospect, and as Bob McKenzie said, he is the biggest wild card in this draft, and I agree with that. I think he could be one of the biggest fallers in this draft, one of the maybe biggest risers in this draft. I think he will fall quite a bit, and being a number 1, that does make sense. Arthur Kaliyev had a brilliant OHL season with the Hamilton Bulldogs, playing 67 games, getting 51 goals, 51 assists for a solid even 102 points. And the points are no problem when it comes to Arthur Kaliyev. His season was absolutely brilliant, tearing up the OHL no matter what. And when it comes to Arthur Kaliyev, again, it's not the points that teams are worried about, it's about pretty much everything else. Now, I like Arthur Kaliyev quite a bit. Having him at number 11 is quite a bit high compared to some other people right now in the draft rankings, but I still think he's a fantastic prospect that should go top 15. But the thing is, he likely won't. There are some teams in that top 15 that I think could desperately use a guy like Arthur Kaliyev. Teams like Minnesota, Arizona, Montreal do come to mind, where you could have a power play quarterback who's pretty solid 5-on-5 too. And when it comes to Arthur Kaliyev, the skill, he brings it offensively. His skill and talent is amazing with him. His shot, I think, is the best shot in the draft, and he brings it every night in the OHL. If developed right, I think he could be one of the best goal scorers in the entire NHL, and could become an NHL superstar. And that's just the thing, because I don't think a lot of NHL teams want to take that kind of risk, want to take that kind of project on, because I think of Arber Kaliyev, he is a project. He will take likely 2 or 3 years to become an NHL regular, and I see that as a norm with him. But when it comes to Arber Kaliyev, the upside of him is, I think, amazing, especially talent-wise. Yes, defense is not great, the effort level is not the best, and the character, if you want to say that, is not amazing. But the upside you have in Arber Kaliyev, the amazing potential you have in Arber Kaliyev, I think is definitely worth that pick. And obviously, it's not up to me, it's up to NHL teams in this NHL draft, and that's why I think he'll fall quite a bit in this draft. I see him likely being in the 20 to 28 range, maybe even falling out of the top 25, and that's a scary thought, because if Arber Kaliyev is available in the top 20, you should be going on him. I see a team like LA as a perfect fit for Arber Kaliyev, a guy that, if with the right teammates, could produce exponentially on an LA team. And that's just the thing, because I think a lot of teams need that scoring, but won't take the risk for some reason. Now, my official mock draft that I made a couple of weeks ago, I saw the LA Kings be the team to take him. I'm pretty sure they have the 22nd overall pick. I see that being around the range that he goes at, but even then, I think that's a pretty great steal for the LA Kings. Getting a player with that much potential, that much promise at that point, I think is a great pick for them. But again, he's a big wild card here. I can see him going in the top 15, but I definitely see him going outside of that top 15, potentially the top 20, because I think he will fall in this draft. I don't think a lot of NHL teams want to take that risk and want to take a guy with bad character and bad effort level. But of course, with this video, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about my 5 potential fallers in the 2019 NHL Draft? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know. And of course, the question on to you. Who do you think falls most in the 2019 NHL Draft? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my top 5 potential risers in the 2019 NHL Draft. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on my 5 potential fallers and who you think falls most in this NHL draft. And I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.